What up, YouTube? Alright, first topic I wanted to cover was the Josh Gordon suspension. It just came down. He's out for a full year, calendar date, not 16 games, so he'll be eligible to come back for the 2015 season, depending on his, I guess, season behavior this year. Um, so obviously this is big for the Browns for fantasy because came out last year after missing the first two games and actually just fucked the league up. He led the league in receiving yards. He was a ridiculous fantasy player, and a lot of people obviously were real high on him this year for good reason. Now that he's out for the year, you got to look at the Cleveland Browns in terms of their fantasy assets. So this kind of affects a few people. First being the quarterback, of course, was Brian Hoyer. For some reason you were planning on drafting him, don't. One, because he's not that good. And then people are going, he came in before he got injured and played 3 awesome games. Yeah, get that shit out of here. He's not good. Maybe he's a leader and he could win a few games for them, but he's not putting up any fantasy stats that are relevant to you or your team. Without him, their receiving corps is shit. Yeah, so don't draft Hoyer. If Manziel ends up getting starts, which I really think he will by maybe week 5 or 6, something like that, he could definitely be a player to watch. Clearly, his rushing ability, whatever, he looked terrible in the preseason, but I think he'll fix a bunch of things. He said he wasn't ready, so clearly maybe he doesn't understand the offense, and he's a little nervous under center, but whatever. We'll talk about that if he makes his starts. Now, the top receiver is going to be Miles Austin, who sucks. Don't draft him. He hasn't done anything since he had a big year with the Cowboys back in, I don't know, was it 2011 or something like that, 2010? Ever since then, his legs have just given out on him. He gets hurt every year. Even if he stays healthy, he's not going to put up good numbers. They're a run-heavy offense. They're going to feed Tate. They're going to feed Terrence West. And I don't think the Josh Gordon suspension really affects either of them that much. Tate's their number 1 running back, and he's going really low in drafts. There's a lot of hype behind Terrence West being the number 2 back and possibly competing to be the starting running back, but that's really gone nowhere. And Tate's going to be their guy, and I think he's going to put up really good numbers. And his ADP right now is, depending on the site, it varies a lot, but I know on like Yahoo it's something crazy like 100, but in other normal sites it's probably around 60, 70. So that's a great 8th round pick, 7th round pick, a number 1 running back who's gonna see a shitload of touches. He's a good receiver. He's a good runner. The only knock on him is he hasn't really stayed healthy when he plays a good amount of downs and gets a lot of touches, but I don't know. He looks real good so far this preseason. The number 2 receiver, who I think actually can make a pretty decent fantasy impact, is Andrew Hawkins. Sorry, he played on the Bengals for the last few years. He's a little guy. He's a slot guy, but he's got really good hands. He's really quick, and I think Brian Hoyer or Johnny Manziel, whoever's in a quarterback, is going to use him as an outlet. I think he could really put up good numbers. He's finally going to get a chance to showcase what he's got now that he's on the Browns, and he's going to be one of the top receivers. Which leaves us to the actual top receiver last year, besides Josh Gordon, their tight end Jordan Cameron, who was a stud. I remember watching him in the preseason last year, and great hands, and I was like, oh wow, you know what, this guy's going to break out. And I tried to get him in as many leagues as I could, and that's exactly what happened. He did work for me in all my teams that I had him on, at least for the first few weeks. He kind of tapered off a little bit when Hoyer got hurt, but this year he's going to see a shitload of targets. He should lead the team in targets by a huge amount. In PPR leagues, he's going to be a stud. He's going to get the looks. He'll get touchdowns. He's a big target, regardless of who's at quarterback. So Jordan Cameron's a guy you need. I think this Josh Gordon suspension boosts him up, because when Gordon came back, he was the primary target for for all the quarterbacks over there. And Cameron's production went down a little bit. His targets went down. Now that he's the top receiver, he's gonna have a huge year, I think. So I have him ranked, I think, as my fourth tight end behind Gronk, Jimmy Graham, and Julius Thomas. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him finish ahead of Julius Thomas, or maybe, I don't know. He's definitely in the tier with the top four in those four. Well, actually, fucking Jimmy Graham's in the tier by himself. But besides that, yeah, he'll be their most productive fantasy player, maybe besides Ben Tate. But we'll see what happens. Anyways, yeah, that's just the impact I see Josh Gordon having for the Browns for this fantasy season. So if you agree, if you disagree, comment, like, dislike, whatever you want to do. Do whatever. Yeah. So peace.